Hello, everybody. It is Saturday, the 24th of 2021. I come to you here. Let me get Alice Cooper turned off here with his song, The Man Behind the Mask. And that is exactly, get my funny face off here today. That is exactly what we're going to talk about here today. Today's topic is the masks that have to, the mask trend behind COVID-19 and the pandemic that we're in right now. So, moving on here with what we're going to talk about today. The pandemic, as we all know, has been going on for quite some time. We're going into almost a year and a half now with COVID-19. Don't ask me what happened with the flu. I have no idea. I have no idea what happened with the flu. The flu's gone, apparently. So, the one thing that everyone talks about when we think of COVID-19 and the pandemic, that comes to every American's minds is what? Well, you walk out somewhere, you get, where's your mask? Where's your mask? Why are you not wearing a mask? You're going to get somebody else sick. While the American public has been told masks save lives and that we have to, 6 foot distance, because that's the magic number, according to the CDC and Dr. Fauci, and then it went from 6 foot to 3 foot, back to 6 foot. Sooner or later, it's going to be 20 feet. They said that's the magic number to stop the prevention of COVID-19. Now, many people across America are stuck in a web of disinformation and what I like to call the half-truths of things. So, today we're going to break down the whole mask debate, or as I really like to call it, it's just another stylish trend that we've went through before in history. And we're going to break that down, actually, too. We're going to look at the history of masks. Are they actually something that is effective in the fight against viruses, especially COVID-19? We're going to break down the micron size of each mask and the viruses that they're supposedly supposed to protect us against. And we're also going to see, as well as that, we're going to take into effect what different types of masks, and are they really effective? I mean, we're going to really break them down today. So I guess I'm going to ask this. I mean, the virus itself has been going on here for a while, and as I sit here and think about it, it's kind of crazy because I have seen some scientific research here with masks about, well, if you can smell, certain smells through them, they're not effective. Then you got the Biden administration, and even before the Biden administration, it was, you got to wear a mask. If you don't wear a mask, you hear the fight on the street all the time with people about, you're going to get me sick because you're not wearing a mask. I have heard that from so many people, personal friends, strangers on the street, and I've even seen fights break out in stores because of this. And I'm here to tell everybody, there is nothing we can do to stop a virus. For the 8 years that I was in the military, folks, unless you're in a full hazmat suit, you're not going to stop a virus. But like I said, we're going to break down the masks today. And the first thing we're going to do before I start getting into any of the masks, and I have plenty of examples here, I think it's smart to start off with the history of masks. So the history of the masks, masks have been around, believe it or not, for what we know historically for about 2,000 years, give or take. They started off with animal bladder skins and fabric lace sequences. And they've undergone a different revolution over the centuries. Now, they were a way and still are, to protect against the respiratory health. They started off, from my research that I have found, all the way back to, you look at the Roman philosopher, I think it's Play. He was an elder animal. He used animal bladder skins as masks to help filter out dusts while he was crushing cinnabar. That was one of the earliest ones that I could actually find about the masks. Then we take a leap forward. You go into the 14th century, and you had the Black Death, Europe's largest plague epidemic, which prompted widespread use of facial coverings. Another outbreak was in the 17th century, which led to the invention of the Beak Mask. Now, how many people have actually seen a beak mask or heard of the plague doctors? Well, I have an example for one here today, actually. I actually ordered this one online. It was a gag for Halloween one year, but you're going to get the example of it here. So this is a beak mask. And like I said, it was used as a symbolic reference by doctors to the plague. Take this off here so you can hear me a little bit better. But that, as you can see, everybody, is the bird beak mask. Now, what they used to do is, with this mask, they used to take the wearer, at least, the doctor, who would go into someone's house that had the plague. They would fill it with aromas. A lot of people would put like mint or camphor in here, and it was supposedly meant to filter out the disease, to keep out the plague. But unfortunately, a lot of plague doctors that went in and wore those masks, it didn't protect them. Matter of fact, it actually didn't do anything, and they would come down with the plague themselves. So there were still a lot of deaths during that time. The French doctor Charles de, I think it's pronounced Lemoury, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He was the French doctor that came up with the beak mask. So, looking into the future here when it comes to the history of masks, you also have the artist Leonardo Da Vinci. That was from 1452 to 1590. Now, he used to do something a little bit different, and it's become a new. It's basically the trend has come back with the pandemic for COVID-19 here. He used to use soaked cloths in water, and he would place them on his face in order to prevent toxic chemicals from paints and plasters from entering his lungs. People trying to escape a burning building, for example, if you think about firefighters and things, they do the same thing to stop smoke inhalation. So there you go. Leonardo da Vinci was someone who used a mask. His was just a little bit of a different style. Then you have the discovery in 1861 of the presence of bacteria in the air by Louis Pasteur. He made people aware of the dangers of breathing in harmful pathogens. This led to doctors to prescribe cotton masks to limit contagions during different pandemics. Fashionable women would wear lace veils to prevent their lungs from harmful airborne particles. Moving right along, we have the 1905 Chicago physician Alice Hamilton published a study about the amount of, let's see here, streptococci bacteria expelled with scarlet fever patients when they coughed or cried. She also measured the bacteria from healthy doctors and nurses when they talked or coughed, leading her to recommend masks during surgeries, for example. Her recommendations would lead to the widespread use of protective masks for surgeries and nurses, and is still used today. Excuse me here. Then you had the global flu pandemic of 1918. Both medics and members of the public used protective masks, especially in America, where in some states they were used in the workplace and in public transport. Now, this virus personified the was used a lot as well in World War II and in World War I, especially here in World War I during what was called the Spanish flu when it emerged. Then we get all the way up here, ladies and gentlemen, to the good old early 2020, where French designer, and I'm going to try not to butcher this, Marine Serre, Paris fashion designer, she made her models outfitted with matching masks, designer masks. And this was during the very beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's just a brief history of masks. So now comes to the great thing. We're going to start actually looking at a couple masks here and breaking them down. Besides the bird beak mask. So every mask that man has ever created, the question of how effective they really are always comes to mind. When you think of a mask, I tend to think of, kind of like a furnace filter. Masks, just like a furnace filter, only filter out particles to the grade of their size. With masks, it's measured out on what they call the microns level, and each mask has its own rating for what it can filter or cannot filter out. Well, that's pretty common sense, but you have a lot of people who you see running around, and I have seen some really disgruntled people go on about, you're not wearing a mask. You're not wearing a mask. Well, that's why I'm doing this video, because there's a lot of half-truths out there. So we're going to rate the pros and the cons here. So for individuals that constantly say, we want to look at the science, everything nowadays has to be science-related. Well, I'm going to give you your science. So, in science, if you don't know this, viruses are much smaller than bacteria particles. Now, a lot of masks will filter out most bacteria particles because they're larger, but they won't filter out a lot of the virus because viruses are smaller. Here's a good example. I'm going to give some rundowns here, just so that everyone can kind of comprehend this. On the actual size of viruses. So, viruses are measured out on what they call a nanometer. It's basically, you'd have to look at this thing under a microscope and zoom in on it under a microscope just to see the breakdown of this virus. And most viruses are different shape, cone, or, they've got a point to them. They just look really weird under a microscope. So we're going to start off here with the virus that has taken over the whole entire world, apparently, and that is the COVID-19 virus. So the COVID-19 virus on a nanometers scale is measured about 65 to 120 nanometers. That's pretty small. If you look down and we look at the regular human flu, because there are different strains of the flu virus, if the human flu still exists, mind you, it is ranged between 80 to 120 nanometers. The swine flu. How many people remember the good old swine flu in 2010? Well, I do, but you maybe only heard it twice on the news. So the swine flu, which was one of the most, and probably still is, even more so than the COVID-19 strain, it was like SARS. It spread everywhere. It infected, they said, pretty much all of the United States. Now, we don't hear about it, and it's kind of wiped itself out. But why was that? I believe I've talked about this with viruses before. Well, because a virus has to have a host to infect. So what happens when you, I don't know, infect all the hosts? Well, the virus burns itself out, doesn't it? I wonder if we should try that same aspect and same approach with the COVID-19 virus. I wonder. Wink, wink. Joe Biden administration. So the swine flu. It comes in at 80 to 120 on a nanometers measurement scale. Again, very tiny. The bird flu comes in at 60 to 120 nanometers. Again, very small. It's probably one of the smallest viruses that's out there is the bird flu. And there's several viruses. I mean, I gave 4 of them right there. There are lots of viruses out there. All of them very close in size. A little bit smaller, maybe a little bit bigger. But you get the gist of what I'm trying to get at here, folks. These viruses are very tiny. So now we're going to look at the masks themselves. The masks. Well, we're going to start off with the one that, if anybody else caught the article here the other day that the CDC put out, now they're saying there's plenty of them. We don't have to keep washing these types of masks anymore because we've got plenty in stock now in the United States. So the first mask we're going to talk about, besides the bird beak one, we're going to do what is called the most safe, according to science, the N95 mask. Now, the N95 mask is not new. It has been around for a long time. You see a lot of these when people are working in buildings that's got asbestos. A lot of your contractors will wear these because of dust off of drywall, insulation, you name it. I mean, this is a common mask. But they say because of the tight fit on the mask itself, that the pressure that it exerts when you put it on is a tight fit around the face. So they say that this blocks out quite a bit of anything trying to get in. Now, one thing with the N95 mask, a lot of people don't know this. I'm going to break this down. So the N95, I want everyone to remember this line that I'm about to say. The N95 masks are primarily designed to protect the wearer from the environment. So whatever environment that you're in, this is what is supposed to protect you from the environment. Please keep what I'm saying with that sentence in mind, because it's going to come back here and I'm going to show you why this is important over any other mask that you see people out there wearing. Okay, so remember that line. Now, there's been lots of studies on the N95 mask here. Now, this is not me saying this. I'm repeating this because you're going to have a lot of people go, no, Mr. Nash, you're wrong. No, I'm not wrong. I got this from the CDC and who we all know we can trust 100% top notch because they're never wrong. They're always wrong. But we can trust them because they never put out false information and the very next day they come back and change it 20 times. Remember? Like Dr. Fauci. Wear a mask. No. Wear 20 masks because that's really the only way to protect yourself. So, there is a study. Anybody can go to those two places, the CDC or the WHO's website, and you can see it for yourself. And there's been lots of other universities that have published this. So N95 masks, folks, have been proven. And this is in a laboratory setting. 60 to 90% protection from viral infection. And that's just in a laboratory setting. Now, something else with these masks. They're on the box. But how many people actually sit there and read their box? Probably not many. The mask itself, you're really not even supposed to touch the outside of it. Because what happens with these masks? Well, once you start touching the outside of this, you compromise the mask. Or you compromise the percentage of the mask. So where the N95 is effective, again, only 60 to 90% protection against viral infections. That means it's not going to protect you against everything. You got better chances, but it's not going to protect you against everything. The other thing is that a lot of people don't understand is this is snug against your face, but you do have cracks and crevices along the sides of your faces, folks. And I'm going to give everybody another scientific fact. You may have learned this one probably, I would say, in 5th or 6th grade in science class. I did. Are you ready? How does oxygen travel? Well, I'll tell you. Oxygen rates travel against the path of least resistance. So as you're wearing a mask and it's snug up against your face, guess what? The cracks on the side, oxygen's going to find its way out of there, right? So if it can find its way out with the path of least resistance, guess what's going to happen? It's going to follow that path of least resistance when you breathe back in. So again, not 100% effective. Now we're going to move on. And this one is my favorite one of them all. Are you ready? How many people have went in to a hospital, or at that matter, a doctor's office, or a bank, or, I don't know, a store like Walmart, or Menards, or Lowe's, or Home Depot, or wherever you're going for the day, you and the missus or the kids, to go pick up appliances or odds and ends, you name it. Well, what do you get hit with? You get hit with that sign that says, "It's a mask mandate, you gotta wear a mask." Well, that is true. So this is what they give you. Rather a blue, a pink, or a yellow one. This is what they call a surgical mask. And as you can see, it's paper thin. Now, surgical mask, right over the face, and you got the little band there to put across your nose. Folks, look at all of the passageway around the mask. Under the chin, the side holes. Again, what is science? Because, everybody says we got to follow everything that's science. Well, I'm giving you science. Ready? Oxygen travels against the path of least resistance. So every hole on your face that you breathe in or out, guess what? Whatever you're breathing in is going to come in there with you. So if it's COVID, well, congratulations, you just breathed it in still. This didn't do anything. The best thing about this right here is if you read a surgical box, it says right there on the back of it, or at least it used to. When this came out about a year ago with COVID, You couldn't see anything about COVID on these boxes. Nothing. And then it got changed to, these do not stop the prevention of COVID-19. Then it got changed to, well, you got to wear these because, these catch the droplets. So we're going to go back to that sentence that I told everybody to listen to at the beginning when I was talking about the N95. And what did I say? The N95 is to protect the wearer from its environment. So a surgical mask, well, guess what they do? A surgical mask's primary design is to protect the environment from the wearer. Now, I don't know about anybody else. This thing is paper thin. I went and tried to check the specs for this, for a surgical mask, and guess what I found? If you go to the CDC's website or you go to WHO, guess what they say? There's limited to no data for these. The CDC has failed to reference these. I wonder why that is. Well, I went to some other websites from scientific universities and daily science studies, and guess what? Daily Science has right on their website about masks. They give great readings about the N95, how they protect against, they said, roughly 85% of particles smaller than 300 nanometers. But guess what? When it comes to surgical masks or cloth masks, there's no readings on them. There's no effective put out on these. Wow, that's really interesting, isn't it? And then to do information, if you can find some on these, it's all over the place with these. Some say they can do anywhere from 300 to 600. Well, gee, if that's the case, that doesn't protect you against any viruses, does it? But then you have the fight from the other side, and what do people say that love these things? Well, it's exactly what you just said. It's to protect the environment from the wearer. Okay. So I've heard the debate about, well, if you cough and you've got a surgical mask on, the droplets from your mouth or your nose or from your mucous membrane is caught, and therefore COVID can't get out. Really? So if COVID is airborne, and it could also be in our mucus, so this might catch the mucus that comes out of my nose or my mouth or my spit. You got all these holes and gaps, and you name it, in this frickin' mask. So if it's airborne, again, what have I been debating here? Well, oxygen travels in the path of least resistance, so it's going to go right out this mask in any opening it can find. It's kind of like if you go into, a store, and you go up to the cashier, and they've got that plexiglass, and then all around you, up above you, you've got air vents. Folks, COVID's going to go travel right around that plexiglass. So what's it really going to do? It's going to do absolutely nothing. Then I found a study on the next thing I'm going to talk about, and that is the cloth and fabric masks. You've seen them. Some people sew them up professionally and put pictures or logos or their favorite movie on there, or little emoji pictures or whatever. I mean, they're out there everywhere. And then you got people that'll come in and wearing these, what I like to call the handkerchief ski mask face and neck piece, where it's you got to put it over your head and it's on your neck, and you pull it up and it's over your face, and you kind of look like a half-ass ninja. Well, you get everyone saying, well, fabric does the same thing. It's the same thing as these medical masks, and it's a little bit heavier. Yeah, fabric, folks, doesn't protect against anything with a virus. You might as well go outside and cut a hole in a chain link fence and tape that to your face. Because that's exactly what you're getting. You're getting a chain link fence on your face. It doesn't do anything against the nanometers that these things are measured in. They're tiny. If they're tinier than bacteria, what chance does a fabric covering on your face have to stop COVID? It doesn't. You're still breathing all that in, and you're looking stylish while doing it. So I guess, what's the point that I'm getting at? Well, the point that I'm getting at is kind of like at the beginning here when I talked to everybody about the bird beak. It was the same thing. Stylish trend that was made to stop the plague, and it didn't work. It was a big lie. It caught on, and you had doctors and physicians and people going out and wasting money because they thought it worked, and it didn't. This is the same thing. It's a stylish trend. And what are they doing? Well, now you go to a store or you go online and it's mask this, and you can get a mask design like this, or you can have it custom made like this, and this one's got a breathing vent in it, and these ones will filter out 50%. It's a gimmick. This is a gimmick. And everybody that can hear my voice watching this video, if you go out and you're buying and paying for a mask, you're a fool. You ain't gonna stop a virus, folks. You have to be in a 100% head-to-toe hazmat suit with your own breathable oxygen that it's not pulling from the outside. Again, look at a furnace. A furnace is just like a mask. You go into Lowe's and you can find a furnace filter, and they've got 30 different types. Each one of them has their own spec meter on the back of it. What it will filter out and what it won't filter out. Well, that's what we got with masks. So don't believe this crap that you're hearing, because I just went down through this and showed you. It doesn't work. There are so many issues with it, and even the CDC and the World Health Organization has it published. Read it. They retract it every week. Something different. Hell, at one point they were telling people, well, you got to wear eyewear too because you can be infected through your eyeballs. Really? So what? I go get safety goggles and put on? There's still cracks around safety goggles. What, you want me to go get some swimming pool glasses and put on next? Because, those are really tight and rubber sealed around my face. It's just nonsense. You're never going to be able to protect yourself 100%. That's like somebody saying, I can stop death. Good luck with that. I had a really good study here that I found. It was from an Australia study in one of their universities here. It's about 6 months ago. It says an Australian study found that we touch our faces 23 times per hour on average. It says half of them are our mouths, nose, or eyes. It says, is this why the CDC is asking people to wear masks to reduce the COVID-19 virus? Well, it could be, but again, how are you going to keep protecting yourself? These masks aren't going to do it. I mean, I just told you about the N95 mask. A lot of people didn't know about that. You touch it, it's not effective anymore. You've taken down the efficiency rate of it. Why do you think when surgeons are in surgery, they're not touching their face? Well, that's why. I guess my final point to this is, folks, is the simple fact, all of these are just fashionable fashions that the federal government, and I'm even going to go ahead and just say certain individuals for states, are just making money off of. They've pushed a topic to put fear in people, to keep you at home, to control you, to put out a narrative of control. It's more of, the government, everybody needs the government. We have to have big government. And that's what it comes down to. At this rate, and I'm going to put them back on because that was the point of this, I might as well put on my funny nose and mask here and say that this bushy plastic beard is going to protect me against COVID-19 because, well, it's kind of like these. It's like a mask. It's not filtering out anything, but if I really believe it hard enough, it will. So I ask all Americans, please get smart. Just please get smart. You know, we've got the vaccinations going on. They said here yesterday, I just heard this yesterday on 2 networks, 3 radio stations, that the CDC came out and said that now, and the Biden administration, that we now have 40 to 45% of the nation now vaccinated. Well, if we've got that many vaccinated, let's start getting out of the mask trend then. Let's start opening up businesses. Let's start getting the economy rolling. Let's stop putting people living in fear and let them get back to a normal life. Well, that's it for my podcast here for today. Let me know what you think. We are on YouTube. I'm also on Rumble now. And we are also on Facebook. So drop a line. I don't care if you even want to, have a friendly debate. If you agree, disagree, drop a subscribe, drop a Rumble, leave a comment, whatever you want to do. I'd love to hear from you. So that's going to conclude another one of my podcasts. I am Charles Nash, and thank you for watching another episode of Political Theater. Thank you.